I'm Frank Hermes, and this is Rocket Electronics. And this is the series of videos that will hopefully orient you to the features and use of the new RockeTiltometer. We are going to simulate a launch because none of the ignition circuits can actually trigger unless launch is sensed. So it's another safety feature built into the ultra-safe ignition control circuitry. So we're going to simulate though, and this you may want to do just like I'm doing if you ever want to test the system. And so in this case, there's a little test point here that I can ground out. And you'll notice right now that there's some LED indicators that indicate operation of the data logger card. So far in this, which would be your normal situation, the data logger does not start logging data until launch is sensed. And then it runs for 2 minutes of flight time data. But also again, if you should want the verbose mode, which we would call it, that you want to record data from as soon as you turn the system on, there's an option switch number 2, which you can turn on, which will change that data log to start initially as soon as you turn the system on, as opposed to waiting for launch. But in this case, as soon as I do go into launch mode, you will see that the data logger indication will start up, and the beeps turn off because now in theory the rocket is launched. There's nobody hear the beeps or see the indication, so we turn that off for battery power. But you'll notice that now the blue LED and the orange LED are indicating that we are doing data logging. But again, this it's showing flight time, and that will run for 2 minutes, which is within the parameter of any rocket that you're probably likely to be using. So we're cruising up. System's constantly looking for tilt outside of the parameter. If we don't get that, you'll see this is our simulated igniter. I'm going to simulate that we get a trigger signal from your timer, and we get trigger signal and we get a 2-second pulse. The output circuit is rated for 12 volts at 20 amps, which should be able to power most any igniter circuitry that you have. So that's the basic normal operation of the RockeTiltometer. So we hear the tones. So again, the angle tones for 25 degrees, and now we're in the mode. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn our ignition battery switch on. We go to 2 beeps. We'll make the checks we want to make. We'll go over and we will arm the ignition circuit. So we go to 1 beep. And again, prior to launch, you could have a tilt situation, and that won't really affect anything. But once we go ahead and launch, which we'll again simulate. So we've simulated launch. Now we're headed up. And unlike last time, we'll simulate that we had a problem, and so we got ignition last time when we triggered the circuit. But let's just say we go up and your rocket started veering off and you exceeded the critical angle that you've set. Once that's happened on the flight, in case the thing is squirreling, because it could come back to a vertical flight, but it's probably transitioning through there and starting to do skywriting or something. But once that has occurred, if you go to then trigger output, nothing will happen. You'll see that we did not get a igniter signal. So we'll turn everything off, but I am going to, for example, I'm going to start right now. We'll show one failure mode, so I just clicked, and that simulates that we don't have a data card in. So if we were to start the system now, so it's going through its initializing. You'll see the blue LED indicated that the data card's bad, but also instead of getting those angle tones that you heard before, we're getting an error message that says that the data card's bad and the system's locked up and it won't process anything at this point any further until you fix the situation with your data card. So turn that off, and we'll go ahead and we'll make one little change in here, and we'll say that it's okay. Let's say you lost your data card, then, but you still want to make your flight. So in this mode, we switched option switch number 1 on, which is the bypass for the card. So this time with the option switch 1 up, we'll go ahead and start the system up again. But this time, since we bypassed it, you'll go on and get your angle beeps. But you'll also, just before you hear the angle beeps, you'll hear some chirps that are, again, to let you know that you have in fact placed the bypass on. In case you didn't want to do that, you did that inadvertently. So we'll turn the system on, let it start initializing. You'll see that the blue LED's indicating that the card's out, but listen. So that sequence again was those 4 quick tones at the beginning were to remind you that you have your card out in case that's not what you intended to do. But since it was something that you did select, it'll let you go on. You heard the tone beeps, and now we're in the standard mode waiting for ignition arming. So we'll kind of restore things. We'll put our data card back in. We'll change our options from allowing the card to be out. So we'll put that back, but we'll put option switch number 2 on this time. And then we're going to go through a sequence and we'll show when you might have a flight problem. So at this time, since we have the option switch 2 up, then the data card will start recording data immediately upon system initialization. So system's initializing, and you can see the blue LED indicating that the data card is going. So that's about sums up all of the functions and features of the new RockeTiltometer 2. And all this information is included in the preliminary manual that is currently out on the website at www.rocketelectronics.com.